So it's been a while since we've done one of these. My son's bike has stopped working. We're going to service the forks, and these are SR Suntour XCM forks. They're not really designed to be serviced, but if I give a quick demonstration, they have completely stopped working. They do pop out if you bash them, but they've got no suspension movement whatsoever. So we're going to strip them down and see if we can make them work again. I've done it on a pair that weren't in as bad condition and that worked well, but I've never done one in this bad a condition, so well, we'll see how it goes. Okay, we'll do a quick rundown of the tools we're going to use for the fork rebuild, not for taking the bike apart, etc. Number one is a 10mm socket. I think I referred to this as a 12mm socket through most of the video, so ignore it. 10mm socket. I've got a small screwdriver used for getting seals out. I've got this SR Suntour tool. It's available on eBay. It's the larger one of the two for these particular forks. I think it's about £6. I've got a 5mm Allen key. I've got a 2mm Allen key for the lockout on the top, pair of pliers, small hammer, little piece of wood so when I'm knocking the bolts in I don't damage them. I've got a toothbrush for cleaning with the degreaser. This is brake and chain cleaner. I've got a scrubbing brush, I've got some metal polish and a toothbrush that goes with that. I've got some car polish just to get things nice and shiny. And I've got a kitchen roll and something to clean all the stuff in. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to strip the forks off. So we are going to undo the front disc caliper, just a couple of bolts. Bottom one's quite tight, I think there's some thread lock on it from before. Trick to remember is don't pull the front brake while you've got the caliper off. We've got a little clamp here that holds the cable in, so just go and do that as well. Put all this stuff to one side. Comes off easy. What's next? We'll drop the wheel out. Quick release wheel. It comes out nice and easy. You see this? Then we've got on the top of the fork, this one's got a remote lockout and it's got two little Allen keys. So I'm just going to see if I can undo those. And this is a 2mm Allen key. So just undo that. The forks are unlocked at the minute. Couple of bolts. Again, take those out, put them to one side so we don't lose them. Not going to do anything else with the forks at the minute. We'll take the handlebars off, complete with the stem, so we can just drop the fork straight out. Again, just we've got a top bolt. Let's move this so we can see it. You see that all right? Don't want to talk, no?
Mm.
Very shy cameraman assisting me today. It's not his bike. His bike's actually in good condition. This one's had 2 years of paper rounds and it's seen better days. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the top cap from the forks. Again, putting everything aside so we know where it is and we can put it all back together later. If you watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I lose stuff everywhere. So I'm trying to learn. But on the top of the steerer, you've got a bolt this side and a bolt that side. Now as we undo those, the forks are going to drop out. So you just need to support the forks while you undo them. I'm going to undo the top one all the way first of all, then I'm going to just support the forks. That's one side. Drop the handlebars down. Need about 6 hands. Now I'm going to take off the spacers. Good lord, this is rusty. Take off the spacers. Keep them all in the same order that they came out so we can remember how to put them back. And with a little gentle tap, the forks should just come out. Again, we've got the lower ball race. Just going to take that off, put that to one side as well. Right, I'll get rid of the stand and put these forks on a bench. Okay, so the forks, I've put them in a workbench. On the left hand side, the non-drive side, this is a bolt. You need a 12mm socket. I'm just going to pop the socket on there, a little bit of wood, and just tap it, and that just frees up the, it pushes the inner of the fork in, and it just frees it up so we can remove the forks easily. On the drive side, there's an Allen key, an Allen bolt, so I'm going to do the same again. Just going to tap it, and that frees that one as well. Going to flip the forks now and put them on the table so we can strip them down. Okay, so I've flipped the forks upside down again. Just going to take off the nut on the drive side. Again, going to keep that safe. And then the Allen key. The Allen bolt. Right, now those are completely undone, the bottom of the forks. So I'm going to take the forks out of the workbench. Now these are pretty seized anyway, these forks. So I'm not sure quite what's going to happen when I undo this stuff. I'm hoping that it's not going to hit me in the face. The last set I did were working okay. So on the drive side, I'm just going to undo the top cap, which I already loosened earlier. And then on the non-drive side as well. Non-drive side's coming out alright, which is good. So that comes out, it's just a plastic cap. Again, we'll pop that down there. Now the drive side is a lot tighter. So I'm going to make sure that I've got my fingers out of the way as I undo this. Pops up a little bit, but not too much. So this is, oh dear, you can see it's soaking wet. Where to be fair to my son, he uses this bike all the time, and he has looked after it, but it does get left out in the rain if he's working. So again, pop that to one side, we'll have a look at that later. Now we should be able to dismantle these, but it doesn't appear to be as easy as the last time I did it. So, okay, so I'd like to have to do this off camera because these forks are seized in. So what I've done, I've managed to free them up a little bit. There we go. And on the drive side, apologies, we've got a spring this side. Can you pass me a pair of long nose pliers, or bent pliers on the board? Yeah, thanks. So it's because I've got grease on my fingers, I'm just going to use that. Let's pull the spring out, which is absolutely, still got some grease on it, but it's pretty dirty. Again, lay that out so I can remember where everything is. Now, theoretically, there shouldn't be anything stopping these forks coming apart now. But they are really, really dirty and they're a bit rusty. So, I've got a piece of wood and I'm hoping that I can put this piece of wood in the bench and get some purchase on them. And that went better than I thought it was going to go. So that's good. And these should now come out. So, what we're left with on the non-drive side is, again, absolutely filthy, loads of grit in there. We're going to poke that up through the fork and drop it out the top. So we've got another spring, like a plastic cartridge. It goes under the main spring. And now we've got just the top tube. Now we've got just the top tube. You can see here where it's really, really sort of worn down. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to polish that out and get these things working again. Like I said, I've not done it with a pair this bad before, so we'll see how that goes. And in the bottom, put those down to one side. The bottom of the forks, I'm looking down them now, there is a plastic sleeve on the non-drive side. So, let me know if you can see this, Matt. See down there? So what I'm hoping to do, turn it upside down and get this plastic sleeve out. So that drops into the bottom. Now looking down the forks now, they're completely empty apart from a lot of grit and a lot of dirt. Okay, so next thing is take the two rubber dust seals out. Just going to use a little screwdriver. And if you can shine a light on that, hopefully you'll be able to see, if you can see in. We're going to put the screwdriver above the metal and under the rubber and just ease that out like that. And we're going to do the same on the other side. So we put the screwdriver in and just ease that out. Again, I'm going to make sure I know which side everything is on. Now, inside the fork, you've got a plastic sleeve, and in that plastic sleeve is it's like a little cutout. So if you put a screwdriver in that cutout and just gently twist it, I think I need a smaller screwdriver, maybe I'll try a pick. So again, on the back of the fork, on the top of the fork, there's a little groove on the plastic, a little split on the plastic, and then inside the fork itself there is a groove that the plastic slides into. So again, I'm going to try and move that around, which is not easy. So you can see that coming up. So that is coming out. There we go. And that just slides out like that. You can see hopefully on that the little plastic clip, and also you'll be able to see on the back the groove inside the fork. Okay, so finally got the other plastic sleeve out. It took an absolute age. It was seized in completely because there's all rust inside here. So on the left hand side we've got the rubber dust cover, we've got the plastic sleeve insert goes into the top, then we've got the big spring. It's got plastic plugs either end which pop out, and in the middle of it has got a rubber damper, I think it is. Underneath it, that goes this plastic rod, the spring on it. This sleeve slots inside the fork lower. I'll show you how to put it all back together once it's clean. So what I'm going to do now is take all the little bits and pieces apart and give it a clean. Fine. Okay, so I'm going to put all the pieces, stripping everything down, putting everything into this bucket. There's two plastic caps on the end of the spring, so I should just try and get those off. They just pop off like that. And then the other side, and then inside the spring, you can use this rod to push it out, is a piece of rubber that comes out as well. And then I've got the fork lowers and the fork uppers, which I shall clean afterwards. So I'm going to use a brake cleaner. This is Silcoline brake chain cleaner. I use it on the motorbikes. It's really good for getting all the grease off. A bit of kitchen roll and then a rag, just to tidy everything up. Okay, now I've got the fork lowers and the fork uppers. I'm going to do the same thing again. Just going to spray lots and lots of degreaser through them. Now this degreaser won't damage any of the rubber or plastic. So if you are using, or you're going to buy some degreaser, make sure that it's one that won't damage the plastic. That's this one. Seems to work quite well. So again, I'm going to give them a clean toothbrush and rub them down, make sure they're clean inside and out. I'm going to rub a cloth inside the uppers and the lowers. Okay, so we've cleaned everything up, and what we've noticed on the upper stanchions is we've got quite a bit of rust. I was hoping it was going to be surface rust, but it's gone through to the chrome. Now I just want to get these forks working again, so I'm going to use this stuff, Auto Sol, and a toothbrush, and I've got a little multi-tool as well. Hopefully I'll just be able to buff that down as smooth as possible so that it seals the water out as well as we can do. So I'll put some of that on and then just start scrubbing away. I've also got some very fine wet and dry that I can use just to take the top of the rust off before I start polishing it. Okay, so I've polished those down as best as I can. You can see the chrome is pitted. There's no way I can make that smooth, but they're a lot smoother than they were, so hopefully they will slide past the seals a little bit better. I'm just going to clean these off now and give them a coat of car polish. just to get them as smooth as I can possibly get them, sliding up and down past the seals. So just using ordinary car polish, just resin polish. See if I can get as smooth as I can. Okay, so all the parts are clean now. On the right hand side, this is I'm explaining left and right as you're sitting on the bike. The right hand side at the bottom, we've got the Allen nut, we've got the gas strut, we've got the slider, the dust seal, and then the cap that goes on the top. On the left hand side, we've got the nut that goes on the bottom, the little spacer that goes inside the fork leg. We've got the nylon, I don't know what to call it, nylon rod that goes on the lower side, and then we've got the rubber damper that goes inside the spring, and the two end caps. Dust seal, bottom slider, and the cap that goes on the top. And I've got the upper forks here. So first of all, I'm going to put the spring back together. Now, when I'm putting it back together, I need to use some grease. Now this is SRAM butter. It costs, I think it's about £12 for a small one like this, and realistically if you're going to use a small pot like this, you're going to use most of it up putting these forks back together. So first thing I do is get the rubber. I'm going to put loads and loads of this stuff on to try and keep these forks going for as long as I can. Put plenty on. This rubber then slides into the spring. I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can. So that slides in there like that. Then we've got the two end caps that go on, and they're just a push fit. One on that end and another one on the other end. So they're just pushed in like that. I'm going to take plenty of this grease now and smear it all along the spring, so there's absolutely loads of grease in and around the spring. So that's good, we'll put that there. I'm also going to put just a light coating of grease on everything else, so because we had a real difficulty trying to get the plastic sliders out the top of the forks, so I thought it's best if I put as much grease on everything as possible so nothing else seizes in if we rebuild these again in a few months, just to keep them going. Again, loads and loads of grease everywhere, just to make sure everything's coated. Even going to do the outside of these sliders so they come out next time. Plenty of grease inside, outside, put loads on the inside. Now these aren't sealed forks, they're not RockShox or Fox, so they're not airtight seals. This is really just the rubber seals. All they do is keep the dust and some of the water out. So if you've got a pair of these forks, it'll be a lot easier if you service them at least once a year, maybe even twice a year, and they'll probably keep going forever. I think you can buy all the spare parts from Suntour, and I think I've said that already. So I'm going to put a light smearing of grease on top of the gas strut as well, so if any water does get in, it's not going to do too much damage. So everything's greased now. I'm going to clean my hands and then we'll start putting these forks back together. Right, so with the lowers done, we'll do the uppers. First of all, on the left hand side, we've got the nylon rod. I'm just going to drop that in, and that should come out the bottom like that. Next in goes the spring, the two end caps, the rubber installed inside it. So we'll pop that in as well. Then the top cap, if you can see that, I've got a lot of black going on. So I'm just going to turn that a few turns by hand. So it's almost all the way down. That's the left side done. The right hand side, we've got the gas strut. Gas strut drops straight in like that. And I'm going to turn that a few turns as well, and just tighten it up with a spanner. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to knit these two up with the spanner. Right, so we put the forks back on the bike now. First of all, little seal underneath the bearings goes in here like so. Then we need to get the bearings in. Now what I'm going to do, I'll pop the bearings on first of all, then I'm going to put a load of grease. I've cleaned these bearings, so I'm just going to put a load of grease around them. Like so. And we are going to slide those into the bottom of the headset like that, and up through the top bearings back into the bike. Try and make sure the cables all go the right way around. There we go. Now when you're putting the handlebars back on, you need to make sure again all the cables are routed the right way, and that just slots on like so. I am going to grab the spacers, let's turn that down there, hopefully you can see that. So let's turn that off again. I deliberately left the spacers off to remind you not to forget to put the steering spacers on. Same amount we had in the first place, hopefully. I'm going to pop the handlebars back on, and somewhere around here we should have the cap. Can you pass me the cap, please?
Which one?
The cap, the gold one, yeah. Okay, so the cap that goes in the top of the headset, if you do that up hand tight, that will stop everything falling apart while you grab the Allen keys. Sure, there's plenty of videos about on how to adjust A headsets, so I'm just going to knit this one up, make sure the bearings are seated properly, which they're not at the minute. There we go. So knit that up now. And then I'm going to tighten, for now, just nip up the handlebar stem clamps. Make sure the brake cable is routed the way it was originally, and I'm going to loosely bolt that onto the fork blowers. Let's get that up in the air like that. Put a bit of thread lock on both the bolts. Route the cable around the right way, and I'm just going to put those on by hand. Lovely. And then knit them up. I'm going to wait till the wheel's back in before I tighten them up, so there'll still be movement on the disc caliper, so we can set the brake up properly. If you want to see how I set the brake up properly, I've done it before on a boss nut video, so I'm not going to go through that here. because I think this video is boring enough already. You're supposed to say it isn't.
No, it isn't.
Nice. Then the clip goes back on with the brake hose. So you're going to see me do that because you're going to see my back do it instead. All the cables now correctly routed, same as they were before. Make sure when it steers both directions, it's got free play. Now, the last thing to do is we've got to put the clip back on the top of the forks. I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can. So there's in this remote lockout one, there's a little ball bearing thing at the top. When you push that in, it locks the forks, and when you lift it up, the forks are unlocked. So again, this is unlocked at the minute, and it's unlocked on the handlebar as well. And all that happens when you lock it is that little thing just pushes. It's like a wedge. So it comes down, pushes in the bearing type thing. It's probably not the official name for it. I've got to line up this white cap with the two holes, which should be there. Pop that on the top, get my little bolts back on, and get my tiny little Allen key, which is down here, and tighten those up. Once I've done that, I'm just going to make sure that the switch on the handlebars to turn the suspension on and off still works. I don't want to tighten these too much because they are tiny. This little 2mm Allen key. So let's nip those up. And that one. And that's working fine on the bars. So that's the cockpit all sorted. What I'm going to do now is put the wheel back together, adjust the brake, set the brake, tighten up the discs, torque up the bolt for the caliper, and then we'll take it out and we'll come back and, well, let's see if it works. I'm not entirely convinced it's going to. Okay, so all the bike's back together, torqued everything up, handlebars, stem, disc, caliper. Taking it out for a quick test drive. Does it work? Yeah, it does work actually, so quite pleased really for, what would we say, £17 outlay. Then I've now got a fork that works again. So you can rebuild these Suntours, and hopefully we'll get another 6 months to a year out of this before we need to change it again. As ever, thanks for enduring what's probably been a fairly boring video, and yeah, cheers, thanks for watching.
Subscribe.